Hello, hello, hello. How are you this evening? My name is Brian K. McNeill, the sales confidence coach, aka also known as Paul B. That's right, Paul B. Now, I've been engaged in the activity of telling stories of useful fiction and making a point to sway an audience, to train a sales force, to train an audience for right at 30 years now. And over the years, I've collected some great stories, and some of the stories are fiction stories. They're useful fiction stories, stories with a point to them. Sometimes the stories are nonfiction, like the one I'm gonna tell tonight. I'm gonna tell a story tonight about what happens when you let your imagination help you. And to get this party started right,
Hey, yeah, come through, everybody come see. Story time with Pop B, yeah. If entertainment is what you need, story time with Pop B, yeah. Interesting, entertaining for sure. Stories for adults, parents to entrepreneurs. Got you laughing, you gonna have a good time. Still educational, this is what you want now. Come through, everybody come see. Story time with Pop B,
yeah.
If entertainment is what you need, story time with Pop B.
Let's go. All right, here we go. I'm going to tell you a story about a guy named Charles Garfield. Charles Garfield. Charles Garfield, when he was in college, he was a power lifter. Used to compete in lifting competitions, all kinds of weightlifting competitions. But as he graduated college, he went on to graduate school and he became a clinical psychologist. And he started a study on learning what makes some people perform at their peak some of the time and some people don't, and what kind of principles make someone a peak performer. And he wrote a book, a classic book called Peak Performance Principles of High Achievers. And he became famous for his principles of his book. And he was touring the United States giving lectures on peak performance principles. And he did that for a large part of his adult life and after college. And he got a chance to do some lectures over in Russia with some Russian scientists who wanted to learn the psychology of getting the athletes and getting people in general to perform at their optimum. What kind of psychological tricks and tips does he have to help people to perform at their peak? So Charles Garfield was happy with this opportunity. He goes over to Russia. He meets with the Russian scientists. He's there for like a week, and he's giving lectures and giving his thoughts on peak performance principles of high achieving adults. So after he'd been there about 4 or 5 days giving lectures and feeling really proud of his work there, he got an idea. One evening, hanging out with his Russian scientist friends, he goes, "Look, I've been teaching all week and lecturing all week. Why don't you guys teach me something?" And they said, "Okay, we'll teach you something." So they decided to, they said, when you were a lifter, I want you to pick one of the events that you used to lift at that you can demonstrate your strength. And he picked a bench press. Bench press, that's an easy enough lift. It's not too technical. You don't have to jerk around anything. It's very simple. You lay on a bench, take a bar off of a rack, bring it down to your chest and bring it back up. Okay. So they take him to a gym with a weight bench there. And they get him loosened up. They warm him up a little bit. And they says, "Now, what's the most weight that you believe you can lift?" Now, Charles is thinking in his mind, man, powerlifting was a lifetime ago for me. I was a kid back then. There's no way I can lift much. But he feels like he's a strong man as an adult. So he says, probably about 220, 240, 250, something like that. I can probably lift that much. 240, 250? He goes, yeah. So they put 240, 250 on the bench. And they kind of like rah-rah him, cheering him on. He goes, "Go ahead and give it a shot. Give it a shot." So he gets down there. He gets loose, He lays down on the bench and he grabs the bar confidently and he lifts it up and he's able to bring it down. And with great effort, he got the weight back up and put it on the rack. And he was like, "Woo!" He was very, very impressed with himself that he was able to get 240 off of his chest at his age back up to the bench, back up there. And then they said to him, "Now, we saw how that worked, But if you were in a competition and it was important for you to win this competition, how much more weight would you try other than this 240? How much more weight would you really try? If it was important for you to win, if it was in a competition, how much more? He was thinking, man, he was thinking how much difficult it was for him to get 240 off of his chest and back up there. Because, well, if I was in a competition, it was important for me to win, I'd probably try to go 10 more pounds. I'd go to 250. Okay. I said, okay. So lay back down on the bench. They had him lay down on the bench. And I said, I want you to relax a little bit. Okay. Just relax a little bit. They're counting down from 10. And while he said, close your eyes. And while they close his eyes, while his eyes are closed, they're changing the weights. He could hear them changing the weight. He just relax and breathe deeply. Okay. And then they said, open your eyes. And he looked at the bench, and quick calculation told him that they had put 300 pounds on the bar. 300 pounds. And his first thought was, no way. There's no way I'm going to be able to lift. That's his first thought. Now, mind you, this is a guy who's a peak performance principles expert. His first thought upon seeing the weight, there was no way he could do that. Okay. They said, I want you to look at the weight. And he was still thinking, there's no way. So now close your eyes again. I want you to relax. So he closes his eyes. He's laying down on a bench. And they say to him, I want you to imagine yourself reaching up, grabbing hold of the bar, lifting it off the rack, smoothly bringing it down to your chest, and smoothly bringing it back up and replacing it. And they had him do that. And they said, let's do it again. This time, relax. Imagine yourself taking that weight off the bar, bringing it to your chest, and back up again. And they do this with him in his imagination for about 10 whole minutes. And he's like all relaxed. So he just imagined himself lifting this 300 pounds off the bar, smoothly bringing it to his chest, and back up again. I said, now, okay, now sit up. I said, now, how do you feel? I said, I feel fine. I feel fine. I said, now, this time I want you to lay back down again. And this time I want you to imagine yourself in the stands watching you lift this weight. Imagine you're sitting in the stands watching you smoothly grab this bar, lift it off the rack, bring it to your chest, and bring it back up again and replace it on the rack. And then they went for another 10 minutes. They got him relaxed and imagine himself watching himself lift this weight off the bar, bring it to his chest, and bring it up again. Now, they say after about 20 minutes of him lifting that heavy weight, bringing it to his chest, back up again, and putting 20 minutes of imagining it, they said, okay, now take the bar and bench press this weight. He reaches up, grabs the weight, lifts it off the rack, brings it down to his chest, and brings it back up and replaces it. And he realized how much easier it was to lift that 300 than it was for him to do the 240 pounds. He lifted 60 pounds, 50 pounds more than the maximum that he could even imagine. How was he able to do that? They gave him a chance. He was asking, wow, that was an amazing demonstration. How was I able to do that? We let it get into your subconscious mind. We had you imagine yourself doing it long enough that your subconscious accepted it and was able to do it smoothly. Now, I like that story. That's a real life example. And it always harkens to me whenever I think about that story. How many things do we imagine ourselves not being able to do? And how many things will we allow ourselves to relax and imagine ourselves successfully doing it? If we can imagine it successfully, we're in a relaxed state in our mind, how much more can we accomplish? Maybe did they hypnotize him? No, they just got him to breathe deeply, relax, and imagine himself getting it done. I'm hopeful that you'll find your own moral in this story, especially when you get into a situation where you need to win or you want to get something done and you feel that immediate thought or that initial thought, there's no way I can do that. Remember this story. Your initial thought is an impediment to yourself. If you can get yourself to relax and imagine yourself doing it in a relaxed state again and again and again, when you put your hands to the bar, you're going to find it so much easier. Again, my name is Brian K. McNeill, a.k.a. Paul B. thank you guys for joining for another edition of Story Time with Paw B. I do encourage you to share these stories. Share them on your LinkedIn, share them on your Facebook, especially if you find value in them. Each week on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday nights at 9 p.m., I'll come back here and tell you another story that I've gathered over the years. Consider this like a bedtime story for you. Story Time with Paw B.
Hey, yeah, come through, everybody come see.
Story Time with Paw B.
Yeah. If entertainment is what you need, story time with Paw B. Yeah. Interesting, entertaining for sure. Stories for adults, parents to entrepreneurs.
Got you laughing. You're going to have a good time.
Still educational. This is what you want now. Come through, everybody come see. Story time with Paw B. Yeah. If entertainment is what you need,
Story Time with Paw B. Let's go. I do love that jam. I thank all of you guys who chose to spend a few minutes with Paw B, aka Brian K. McNeill. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You have a beautiful rest of your evening. God bless you.